Welcome to episode 20 of Paranormal Unwrapped with Krista Raisa and Jack Roth. Krista is a channel for Orion Council, ascension teacher, and artist. Jack is an investigative journalist, author, and award-winning filmmaker. Today we are interviewing Von Galt, QHHT practitioner and author of Buddhist Guide to Manifest Parallel Realities. In this segment, we are discussing what starseeds and indigo are, what is their purpose in the awakening and ascension process of humanity, and how does that help with Earth's ascension? We will talk about the struggle that starseeds and indigos have in adapting to humanity and how it feels like they're on a travel visa. 2, what is a spiritual awakening? What is ascension? And how does it produce Mandela effects according to Tibetan Buddhism? How do starseeds and indigos infuse their awakening and ascension into their everyday lives? Guys, this is amazing. So what is going to be happening on this spaceship planet Earth, guys? What is going on, Jack? I'm so excited to have Vaughn on today.
Yeah, I am too. I as we always do our research beforehand, and I saw some interviews with you, Vaughn, and it was fascinating. I was so excited to kind of talk about some of these things because last couple of shows, well, I shouldn't say I've been more negative. I have to say because of some of the research I'm doing for a new project I'm working on, which is it's really cool, but it's more on the humanity as the pathology of humanity, if you will, and the current state of the world that we're in. Now, this is the opposite of that, of kind of like, and I'm sure we're going to get into that kind of, well, what are the obstacles what are the obstacles to ascension? What are the things that we really struggle with here in this planet? So anyway, long story short, Chris, I promise I'm not going to be negative today. Because I got scolded by Vivian last time it was good though. It was a good conversation. But anyway, yes, Vaughn, really good to have you here.
Thank you for having me, you two. I'm really excited to get the information out. And I'm usually kind of a hermit. I kind of retreat into my own world and try not to stay in the limelight. But some of the archangels are coming through my QHHT sessions and kind of arguing with me to get back into this. So here I am. Everybody else is doing wonderful work, by the way.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
It's hard to argue with archangel energy. We were just talking before the show. That's not the topic of today. Did you want to tell us a little bit about what it is? I'm sure most people here know what is QHHT. I've just made a video called The 3 Ways of Volunteers in the New Earth. So I'm sure our viewers know quantum healing hypnosis therapy. But you've written several books on flower energy, but also on Buddhism. How did you get started in this work?
Yeah, so on myself, again, I'm Von Galt, and I live here in Washington. And I'm just a normal, there's nothing special about me. I'm just a normal working mom who happens to work in IT. And on the side, I write books on topics that are interesting to me, just for residual income. And metaphysics is a topic that I've grown up in and I'm very familiar with and that I love. And basically my journey into studying the ascension of Earth, I've had 40 years of studying how consciousness changes our reality through the Tibetan Mahayana Buddhism from my upbringing. And I've used that in my life to manifest the reality that I want. And then about 20 years ago, many Buddhist monks were starting to provide themselves as a resource and kind of getting information out to academia and providing them as a resource for meditation, for mindfulness, for consciousness studies, to try to get enough information to kind of prove this stuff. Is it real? Is it not real? And, just get it out into mainstream. And so they can infuse it into every area of their lives if possible. And so I've been following those academic works and writing the blog articles about between 2011 and 2012 on Facebook on my timeline between 2011 to 2012, and lots of sleepless nights. And then one thing that happened that I'd never expected was people started to wake up. And people started to have awakenings and started to be confused about these Mandela effects or shifts in their reality. And I've had that, but I never really thought that other people would have it. So all of a sudden, my knowledge became current. And so in my research into one of the topics of metaphysics, which is energy healing, I'm familiar with Reiki, which came from the Buddhist monk in Japan. I'm familiar with Reiki, Qigong, and other Eastern modalities of energy healing and tapping into that energy field. But I started to research many Western doctors who was also tapping into that field for their modality of energy healing. And I settled on Dolores Cannon's QHHT modality because it provided me an opportunity to talk to the oversoul directly about the ascension of work of Earth and about the wheel dharma that the client is going through. So that's that. I've been doing QHHT for the last 5 years, and a lot of the type of clients that I get here in Seattle, I think it's just the area, are a lot of tech people, a lot of engineers, scientists, and many of them are old souls, or what Dolores would call indigos, and many are starseeds, and they're just coming here to be part of the awakening and ascension of Earth, because it doesn't really happen very often that a whole planet or a whole universe levels up its frequency and changes to another reality. And so they came here to do that, but they're kind of confused, and they feel like they're on a travel visa, and they're confused about the planet and the people in there, because we're kind of very primitive in how we treat each other and how we handle the earth. So a lot of this is just really new to them, and they're just really confused of how do I adjust when everybody's just so foreign to me.
Right. Yeah, they kind of feel like they don't belong here, right? Krista and I, we've talked about that, and I think a lot of starseeds and indigo, as you call it, and I've heard a lot about indigo children, which I guess now when you just grow up, you become an indigo adult, and you become so you're kind of growing through a lifespan. But you get a lot of these people who are involved in the daily bustle. Seattle's a great city. It's got a ton of energy. It certainly has it's a good level of what I would say spiritualism and progressiveness. But there's also a lot of, you said these people are coming from, these jobs where they're just in the daily grind, right? So what is it like for people? For both people who might be indigos and starseeds, but also other people who are feeling something, and then they come to you. What are they saying to you? And then how does this work? So that they would come. What would they say to you when they come to you? Look, I'm just feeling out of sorts. I'm feeling these things, and then you start with the QHHT work.
Yeah. So if they reach out to me and it's funny, the people who reach out to me are being guided through synchronicity through the angels. I actually had somebody who reached out to me, and she said her message she left a voice message at 3:33 p.m. So I was like, oh, great, somebody's angels brought them. So I gave her a call, and she said that she wanted to get a session for her son, who lives in a small town, in the suburbs of Seattle. And she said that I was one on the top of the stack, and so she reached out. However, nowhere in my profile said where my hometown that I grew up in was. And I'm the only person of the whole registry that's from that town. So she picked the only QHHT practitioner that's from the town her son is at. So it's just very synchronistic. So, but anyways, he again is coming for many of the same types of themes and reasons, which is, how do I address my abundance blocks that are holding down my energy, and remove those unbalanced perspectives and raise my energy up so that I can attract to myself the best version of who I'm supposed to be and have the best life and experience here on Spaceship Earth, by raising my frequency and helping myself, and not only helping myself, but helping others through being a higher frequency. And that's really what they want to do. And by everyone who comes to me when they address their abundance blocks and kind of have their personal awakening, and start raising the level of consciousness, they start attracting to themselves the next best higher experience that their soul groups are communicating and putting in line for them through synchronicity. And then their life becomes a little magical, because their soul groups and the angels are working with them all the time to put the next best thing in their way. And because they worked on their abundance blocks, and the childhood traumas, the inner work, the dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it, because they work on those things that have maybe prevented them from personal growth, and those are no longer distraction. Now they can actually work on the good stuff.
Is that the sort of this is what they're coming to you about for the sessions? But are the answers that the Oversoul is giving? Have you seen a trend or a pattern in those messages of the client who come to you specifically?
Right. So the Oversoul is never, from my experience, not going to give clients an exact answer what to do or how to do it. Because and people ask, what do I do next? How should I do it? And the Oversoul, when we get to the part in talking to the Oversoul, it always gives them suggestions. Like if they're really good at animals and they were thinking about getting into veterinarian work, it will suggest that you really do find a lot of joy working with animals. So you should pursue that if you want to start that work. If they wanted to start a small business, it will give them suggestions of maybe start small and start working with one client at a time, doing a good job and building a book of business, a good referral base. So it'll give them like really sensible, logical recommendations. And as they do that, then their soul groups and their angels can start putting in line the next thing for them as they start that path, whether it's about their personal relationships or their career goals or, whatever, thing that they're working on. But the thing is, the Oversoul is not, the reason why it's not going to give you exactly their answer to tell you what to do is because it will remind you that there would be no point in splitting off into all these different facets of different types of people in order for it to learn from itself, because we're all one and we're all connected to the one universal mind. If it did everything for you, then there will be no point to you incarnating and having your own personal experience.
That's so true. That's so true.
You have to do your work. You can't be lazy. Everybody's got a certain time frame here. So whether it's 80 years, 100 years, 120 years, whatever their time that they have here is, you can make the time that you have here wonderful and enriching, and work on your issues and work on manifesting the best life you have while you're here, and leave with maybe an enlightened contribution to the world. When you leave, or you can, spin your wheels the whole time and hopefully not create suffering and negative karma for you to maybe pick back up and resolve in future lifetimes if you choose to incarnate in this reality or another reality in the physical.
And we still have plenty of time to talk about the struggles, because we, as healers, I'm sure, Vaughn, you relate, is we want to go into, like with Vivian's interview last week, we were going into the solutions already. So Jack, hold us back for a minute, because I'm about to go into Vaughn's I wanted to share the 4 noble truths that she already shared online. I'm so excited about the Tibetan Buddhism part, but before that, and getting through the suffering, this is just Vaughn has so much information, guys. You have to go to her website, merkabachakras.com. There's a lot of more blog articles and videos and QHHT interviews, of course. And so, as you know, she's done this for 40 years, this is her whole life. And I have so many questions about the higher dimensions and the experience. But just to kind of inform people who are still worried if they are star seeds and they've not gone to a hypnosis session before, they don't know what this is. How would you define, or what do you think? What do you both think that the indigo, is there a difference between someone with an indigo aura? Because indigo is typically associated with the third eye, right? That you're very psychic, the truth. When someone's lying to you, you may be very highly intelligent in a certain topic. You might have a certain clairvoyance, very active, very strong, or multiple ones. Is there a difference between that and the wave 2 of starseed volunteer souls? Do you think they have something in common?
Well, honestly, it's all the same. It's just a matter of frequency. Okay, so whether you're a really, really old soul that has multiple incarnations in this reality or other physical dimensional realities in different planets, or if you can't, or if you never had a physical incarnation and you were maybe an energy being, a planet, you were maybe a ring of Saturn, maybe you were an elemental, maybe you were existing in the different higher dimensions. It really doesn't matter, because when you come here, you're in the same platform, and you forget everything. But when you come here, everybody radiates at a certain level of consciousness. So some babies will come at a 200 level consciousness. Some babies will come at 300 or 400 level. It's all going to be the same, slightly different. And so where we left off, as you work on your unbalanced perspectives and awaken, ascend consciousness, you radiate at the same level of frequency as others who this game a little bit longer have achieved a level of consciousness. So no one's special. We need to get special, because that specialness is a symptom of the ego.
Right.
Feel better about yourself. And what Starseeds, Indigos, and all these different type of incarnations have to do with this is everybody's got the same choice, and very few will choose that choice. But just being part of the awakening section and learning how does a planet raise its frequency, or a universe raises its frequency and then shifts to a parallel reality as a higher version for himself. That in and of itself has great lessons that they can take home with them when they finish this earthly incarnation and go back to their lives as elementals, as starseeds, as whatever they were before. They will bring that information with them, and that there will be a reference point for everybody in that soul group, so that when they maybe are a part of another ascension process on another universe or another planet, they can reference, like, okay, when you were a human, how did they do that? But for a couple people, they might even go all the way into Buddhahood, which is because there's different levels of consciousness that people go up to, and some people go up to 500 or 600. Actually, Dr. David R. Hawkins, one of the top mental health doctors in the U.S., spent his life creating the map of consciousness to measure the different frequency of level of different people. And he found through his life work of kinesiology, maybe about 20% of people are integrous. They have courage and integrity. Everybody else is still working on it. Maybe about 22% of humanity, it can actually be good barometer for truth. Many people kind of take advantage of, so they can't see that energy. But anyway,
because that seems about right, about 22%, right? I mean, that's how it feels. I think for people who are on this path, and do feel that, they must feel like, again, kind of like they're in a foreign place, because most people, it's hard to have conversations sometimes, and unless you meet someone that, like you mentioned, synchronicity and frequency, right? So we're all on the same, I wouldn't say, well, we're all on this path, right? So we're having this really cool conversation. But in a normal day, for most people, who are they talking to, right? And that's what. But one question I did want to ask you: when you're working with these people, and you work with a lot of people, and it's all this energetic work, how does it affect you? Is it something that does it raise your energy level, or is it something that depletes it a little bit, so that you have to do your own work to get it back up? I mean, how does that work?
Well, 4 hours goes by really fast for me. A lot of my clients, when they go through a session, they will be surprised that they've been under for 2, maybe 2.5, 3 hours, because it only feels like 20 minutes. Because when you're in the higher consciousness, time condense and very fast. And then when you get back into the 3D world, into your body and back into this reality, they're always surprised that this time passed. Of like, how it didn't even feel like 2-3 hours. It felt like 20 minutes or 10 minutes. But then they look at the recordings, and that's exactly true. what I find interesting is when after a session, I write a summary for them so they can review that as well as listen to the session. Because sometimes it's easier to read the summary than listen to a whole 4-hour bit. And I would go in and try to fact check some of the information, and many of the information is close to true, if not true, especially the science information. But in closing the discussion about the final doorway from before, some people who come into this work, and a very small amount of people will be interested in enlightenment and raising levels of consciousness. So if you're attracted to this work, it means at some point in your incarnation, whether it's in this lifetime or a future lifetime, you will enlighten and return back to be reabsorbed to the pure energy of the one mind, of the universal consciousness. But the final doorway, all of this is preparing people for the final doorway. And, whether you get your awakening, you work on your ascension, raising up the level of consciousness, you have master teachers helping you, whether you're working on, through synchronicity to manifest the life or the experiences that you want. And you learn that basically everything is a hologram, is responding to the commands of this user. And you're like, wow, this is all just an exercise on how powerful I am as a creator being. Whether you find some confidence through energy healing like Reiki or QHHT or channeling or any of these things, they're just further evidence to show you that you have the power to create your reality, and the spirit world is watching and learning from you, and the universe gave humans the power to return home to it and be reabsorbed if it chooses to let go of its addiction to creation itself. And that's a hard thing to do. It could take many lifetimes or eons to let go of the game of polarity, because it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with staying in the game of polarity, because no one's better than anybody else. And so, if it takes you a couple eons to get to the point where, okay, I think I'm ready to let go of the ego and the game of polarity and have my ego death, that's fine too, because again, there's no better. It's just different experiences. And so what is this game of polarity that we have to, we don't have to, but if we choose to,
comment in the chat.
What is it? So let me just go straight to what Buddhahood is in Buddhism. Okay, and very few people are going to be interested in this topic because it's a personal journey.
Tell me, I'm interested.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you.
Selfish today. Sorry, guys. I want to know.
Okay, so at the final doorway, there's no one with you. If you've been channeling, if you've had master teachers, if you've had many lifetimes of angels working with you, the synchronicity, when you get to the final doorway, you're by yourself. It's been all preparing you for the final doorway. And the final doorway is ego death. It's letting go of your personal identity of all these lifetimes. They've been so real. And the way that you have this personal experience is to have an ego so that you have an individual experience for your own personal growth. And again, there's no better or worse. It's just different experiences. But when the universe split off into multiple versions of itself in order to experience itself and grow itself, so the Lord is in every single one, men, women, starseeds, indigos, it doesn't matter. If you are part of creation, you're part of the one universal consciousness. And they've proven this in science, that we're all connected. So when it split off into the game of polarity, it created a physical world in which souls can incarnate, have an ego so they can have their own personal experience, and then move up the evolution of the spiritual evolution if they wanted to. In order to have a physical reality, it also created a spirit world. That's the polarity. It created a spirit world with angels and archangels and spirit guides and all, you name it, all the spirit world. Now, what the universe gave the opportunity for the human creation and creations of this kind to do is to return home, to work on their energy up the levels of consciousness. And if it chooses to, it can let go of its personal identity and the whole game of polarity everything in creation. That means letting go of your attachment to form, your attachment to your identity, your attachment to your house, your attachment to your loved ones, because they are also a split of you. In order for you to have you needed somebody else to reflect back to you that you are you, your children, your family, your kids, whatever. So all creation is split up because of polarity. And so when you finally get to the point where you've had enough of experiencing the wonder of creation and you decide, I want to go back and be reabsorbed into the universal consciousness of the one being, then you let go of your addiction to creation. You're all addicted to creation and again, polarity. And when you do that, now, even if you don't make it to Buddhahood all the way up to like 1,000, which Dr. Hawkins has measured in his lifetime of work, even if you get to 500, 600, 700, you're still going to offset millions of negative people. You reach a high level of consciousness. But for some people who, okay, I'm ready to learn the Buddhahood, we turn to the conscious and get reabsorbed, the void. In Buddhism, they call it the spiritual emptiness, duality, whatever you want to call it. When somebody goes that, what they do is they level, because they're connected here, all of humanity, they level of incarnation, all earth, all realities, all archangels and angels, it's all connected. The person at the bottom, this return to the void, they love everybody, save everyone. That's what Yang did, that's what Buddha did, that's what Kuan Yin did. So maybe this will reach out to a couple. But it's a personal choice. I don't know if I could do it. I do love my spouse and my kids. So I might need a couple eons. I don't know. But
I think that's what Geraldine was talking about, right? Yeah, because she was like, how do you let go of that? That's a, because we always say, because isn't everything what we always talk about, it all comes down to love, right? This is love a is it a part of being human, or is love the ultimate spiritual ascension, part of that? So in other words, does it, like you're saying, does it go from one level to the next, or is it just part of our 3D experience?
Well, there's nothing but love. There's nothing but love. There's
Okay.
nothing but the infinite. But the thing is the concept of love that we know in terms of like love between people, between husband, wife, children, parents, families, whatever, that is one of the hardest ones to let go of, because the concept of having somebody else love you and not everyone else the same way is a offshoot of the ego.
All right.
Okay. In order to be like a one-on-one love, like I love my daughter, I love my dog loves me, there need to be some kind of separation from the whole in order to have that individual love. It's an offshoot of polarity. So that's a really hard concept for people to grasp, but it is an emotion and a reflection of the game of polarity. But if you can let that go, I mean, it doesn't mean that you let go of people in your lifetime, but you know, when your life is over, if you choose to return to the void, then you have that option, but you gotta let go of all of the coming back to experience all of creation. Because
right.
creation is mystical.
And you could be coming back with soul groups you've come back with again and again. So you're talking about more than one lifetime, and it really in all cases. Is that correct? Or okay,
you can come back. You can come back into like a future time. You can come back and just everything in creation is there for you to experience. And so it's very addictive. It's very addictive. How can you let go of the best drug in the world? In the universe, creation, besides creation itself? You're experiencing the fullness of creation. And that's really hard to let go of those forms.
I really love that you said when a client emails you at 333, it's their angel guiding them, because when I was doing sessions, I'm taking a break now for my third eye, but when I was doing sessions, people would tell me This is my first ever mediumistic reading. I was just guided. My spirit guide told me I had to talk with Krista, which was always very reassuring. However, we know what the Mandela effect is, that people have seen 2 different burials of Nelson Mandela, but also they remember this children's book called Berenstein or Berenstein Bears, and these sorts of things. What is, I made an 11/11 video that went a little bit viral, and I related that to extraterrestrial contact. Is there a different reason behind this? Are we being guided towards the one mind, the ego death? Are we being prepared for something, or are we just realizing our creational power? What do you guys think these synchronicities are that we are experiencing on a worldwide level?
Okay, so I can give you the answer from my indigenous and also Buddhist background. So up until 2012, a lot of indigenous cultures who still kept a lot of their traditions and knowledge in place, even after colonialism, started doing awakening ceremonies. So you have the the Council or Native American Council of Elders, you have the chiefs of Polynesian Islands, you have the chiefs of Easter Island, the Dalai Lama, and many Buddhist monasteries worldwide would do their awakening ceremonies with huge bells that they're like huge tuning forks. And it was to end the cycle of polarity and bring in a new level of consciousness, a new energy, and welcome a new energy in the new cycle, which is a unity consciousness, oneness, or in Western terms, they would call it Christ consciousness. In Buddhism, they call it the Maitreya Buddhahood, which is the realization that you are awakened and you create your reality, and that you are connected to everyone, to all of creation. It's unity consciousness. And that's really the new cycle that we're getting into, and it's going to be for the next 1,000 years. And the people who are working on the awakening and ascension, when they get to that awakening and they raise their frequency and they have that shift in energy, then they start putting that shift in energy into creating the reality that they want. So you have doctors putting in more energy healing into the modality, more kind of a holistic approach. You have people in business having more business integrity and trying to do best for their employees and make good work so that it doesn't hurt their customers. You have engineers infusing metaphysics into their work so that we're working smarter, not harder, and we're in tune and being good stewards to the earth. So these are some of the action items that come out from changing your energy into unity consciousness. And then from that, we build in Dolores kind of work, the new earth, in Buddhism, the golden age of humanity. So that's how it is. So you don't get to check out. You still have to do the work.
Exactly. That's everyone. Mark her words. She's talking about the correct thought, speech, action, livelihood, understanding, effort, concentration, and mindfulness that is required to do once we have the realization. And that is so important. You guys rewind, rewatch.
Yeah, and some people don't like to hear that because that means they actually have to do the work and they don't want to. And that's fine too. That's fine too. It's okay to exist in the fourth dimension. It's okay to exist in the fourth dimension. You're not going to make somebody who's in kindergarten try to do a PhD. They're not ready for it. And every level has their joys and the sweetness. So we need to stop thinking in linear terms of this is better, I'm better, you're worse. Everybody's getting exactly what they're meant to get. And the earth in and of itself provides a unique experience in the universe because everybody is coming with a little amnesia, even though the veil is thinning and they're starting to remember. Everybody is it's almost like they took, so we're going to do a grand experiment where we're going to take the really people, the really low, everybody from all these different no instructions, and they can raise all of that into the greater reality. their level of consciousness. Maybe some return to the void and reach Buddhahood and return to the universal one mind. That is the greatest experience that the universe created for itself. Just to know, with all of this, will I return back to myself?
All right.
So it's just like, in Asia, we have a lot of Buddha statues where he's kind of like the laying down, relaxed. Like, how can you be so relaxed when like the world is so chaotic? Because everybody's getting exactly what they're supposed to get for their lesson. And,
That's awesome.
And they're going to elevate to where they need to be.
So how does one question I had when we were talking about the actual therapy that you're doing is how do past lives tie into this? Because you mentioned the veil kind of lifting on that. How is that a therapeutic tool from the standpoint of for us to remember at least parts of our past lives to better understand perhaps some of the things we're going through in this lifetime?
Yeah, and it really ties into kind of like in Buddhism, they call it the wheel of Dharma, of you repeating the same mistakes lifetime after lifetime in amnesia because you reset your memory over and over again. But basically, some issues that people have are not only abundance blocks that they create for themselves in this lifetime, or it could also span multiple lifetimes with the same soul groups. So for instance, I had a client who had to deal with 5 generations of incest, and it's filtered into how this person sees themselves, the kind of career they create, the kind of relationship they attract, the relationship that they have with their children, because they have been conditioned from the behaviors of their parents, who were conditioned from the behaviors of their parents, who were conditioned from, and on, because 5 generations is a long time to repeat the same bad habits. Because they didn't get to the point where they didn't stop and say, wait a minute, I don't know if this is how I want to be or how my life wants to move like, but I know I don't want this. So I'm going to find some way to address this abundance box, understand it, and get past it so I can move on and generate a better reality for myself. And so for that person, because their issue had spanned so many different lifetimes and so many different generations, to go back through with the oversoul and see that this is just a repeat of conditioning, that their parents were like this because of their childhood, and on and on and on, to see that then they were able to forgive what happened, because they understand that these are just children that's grown up that's just repeating a bad cycle, a bad hand that they had, and they just didn't have the ability, or for whatever reason at the time, to see behind why that happened and why they keep on repeating these bad habits and hurting and creating bad karma for themselves in their lifetime and in future lifetimes. And so when this client saw that, she was able to let go of the anger that she had for how she was treated by multiple people in her family. And that changed her energy. Because you can say you forgive somebody, but if you see their face and you're still angry, you're not forgiving them. The energy has changed.
Right.
So,
And these abundance blocks you talk about, are they kind of the same thing? I think of control dramas. Are they? Is that the same thing?
yeah, abundance blocks basically is an unbalanced perspective.
Okay.
You haven't seen the full picture for why that is. So you might, in some cases, like I had another client who came in and she was wondering why every one of her relationships is the same toxic, violent type of relationship. And she's a very loving, positive person. And in regression, and even before regression, we just have a conversation. I go over my worksheet, which is on my website, which even if you're not able to come for a QHHT session, just go to the client intake form and fill it out honestly, and you will go through and find your abundance blocks. If that doesn't work, you can go through the 4 Noble Truths and Eightfold Path in Buddhism and use that technique to decipher your abundance blocks and see what the linchpin that is holding that energy there, so you can pull it out and let it go. Some people can do it all as one holistic thing and let it all go, but for many, they need to find clarity in each one of the things. So basically, these abundance blocks are your personal issues that are holding down your energy. Okay, there are your issues with your incarnation.
Okay. Thank you.
That makes so much sense. I think it's gonna really
They're hard. They're not supposed to be easy. When people do spiritual work, they think it's just gonna be all like positive and rainbows. When you do spiritual work, all your abundance blocks come up for you to redress.
Yeah. It's hard, right?
You gotta be light as a feather.
Right. What do they say? You have to work your way through it, not around it. I mean, you got to just work through and do the work, right? Okay. Sorry, Krista. Right.
Oh, I have so many questions, guys. For instance, under hypnosis that I put up on my YouTube channel with Samantha Mowat, there were these unusual images that came up in my mind as I was communicating them to her, very relaxed, which did not make sense to me. One felt like it was off planet, one felt like it was this one. It felt like in a dream when you have those different themes merging. And she said that there can be timelines that overlap. Have you noticed that with your clients too?
Yeah, I've noticed that with my clients, and actually in pyramid research that many academic universities around the world have done, they found that for some reason the shape of a pyramid over things will amplify the energy. So food will stay fresher longer, people will be a little more radiant, water will be more, will taste better, vitamins will be more potent, etc. And so what I do above my my recliner for my clients is I have a pyramid hanging on the ceiling above them with an Egyptian ankh to further amplify the energies. And so when they're going through a hypnosis session, even though they are self-aware, what changes, and they found this in science as well, is our brains are functioning in a beta state of consciousness. Okay, we're kind of in test mode. Like in IT, they call it, it's in beta. So we're in a beta state of consciousness, but when you tap into energy healing, your brain waves, and they found this in science when they're studying Buddha's brain and people meditating, when you're meditating, you get to a certain level of frequency, your brain wave changes to gamma rays. And that's where you can tap into the spirit world and the energy of energy healing. And that's where the self-healing and the facilitation of the practitioner is coming through, because the person is doing it to themselves. They're healing themselves in the gamma frequency. And so I kind of put the pyramid above to further amplify that. And as a result, some of my clients, reach out to me saying that they're starting to see flashes of light, they're seeing human auras, they're starting to see weird metaphysical things. So they're starting to channel all of a sudden. So I always kind of, alleviate the concerns that it's just part of your awakening symptoms, and it will simmer, and it will just, it's kind of like when you flush through or rush through a big wave and you have all these stuff in front of you from the splash. It will simmer and it'll die down.
Nice. That's such a relief for people to know that when all this stuff is happening, you ever get those emails from people having a spiritual awakening? What do I do? It's meltdown.
Yep.
Yep. Down. I said, Hopi say, just do your work. When the shift happens, just keep doing your work. You will see people in the street. They might be losing it. You just keep doing your work. And that's what I want to tell also folks who are very concerned about the wildfires. I donate to the wildlife charities and nature charities and independent women's charity. So if you're feeling very upset and emotional about things, this is where the Tibetan Buddhist tradition will help you to take inspired action, and that will also calm it down. But if you at least focus on one, good deed for others, it could make you feel a lot better, I think, in your heart.
Yeah. And you don't have to save the world. Okay. Remember, everybody is getting the experience that is right for them, and they are attracting what they are. And so, like, for instance, in consciousness research with the Global Consciousness Project, when they're mapping out the spikes in the Earth's frequency, okay, whenever the Earth does a big spike, she is responding to the heart energy of the people in the different areas that it's measuring. So in the United States, whenever she does a spike in the United States, a lot of it is around the politics because that's what we're focusing on. But in other parts of the world, it's around the natural disasters that's happening in their area. So
Right.
you know, because we're all connected, we're all one. Our hearts send out a frequency that is like 5,000 times stronger than the energy that comes from the mind. Or from the brain. And so when all these people in a specific area start feeling nervous anxiety at the same time, these random number generators that Princeton University have put all over the place, the heart math, and then Apollo 14's astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who started the Noetic Institute for Noetic Sciences. You know, they put this all over the world just to see and just track when Earth has her Schumann frequency whenever she changes and has a spike. And when she has a spike, it's usually like she had a spike in 9/11 as well. And there's a lot of different spikes that she has around different experiences that we as a consciousness are experiencing. And so when she has a spike, she's raising her frequency. And when she raises her frequency, like for a very long time, for millions of years, they say her frequency has been 7.8 hertz. Okay, and I keep repeating this because this is very important. Her frequency, her heartbeat has been 7.8 hertz. And she has a consciousness as well that she is contributing to the great library in the spirit world and into her Akasha record, just like we're all writing our own books that we're putting into the spirit world's great library. But she has a consciousness as well, and her heartbeat has been 7.8 hertz. And for a very long time. And then she had a spike in 9/11. Then she had a spike in 2014, 2017, and more recently she's gone up to about, I think last time I checked was 50 hertz. And so what that means in terms of your experience and your Mandela effects that you were talking about, or seeing some weird parallel reality like Bernstein berries and other symptoms, is you can take it to the analogy of how TVs work, okay? A low resolution TV will maybe go 24 frames per second. Okay, so it just, you can follow along with the change of the resolution. You can see it. So, you know, if you're in a lower frequency and you're awakened, you can kind of see the logos change, the colors change. You can kind of see things happening. And I've had the experience where I'll see something, I'm like, oh my God, did you see that? So, and some other people will see that too. That's when we were in a lower frequency. As the Earth shifts to a higher frequency, a better resolution, she's going kind of like a new TV that is 60 to 120 hertz. The picture is changing even faster. And because the picture is changing even faster, more people are going to be affected by the biggest magnet, which is the Earth. Okay, they're going to be affected by that because we're all energy beings and we are living on her and we're being affected by her. So when she does a spike and raises her frequency, more people are going to have awakenings and more people are going to be confused. And so if you see that, help them out to transition because they're going to have to unlearn a lot of what they know because we're moving into polarity consciousness and we're moving into a higher frequency reality. And so a higher frequency reality will be if you're living in an awakened state and you're working with synchronicity, your manifestations will work faster. You'll be thinking something that somebody will call. You'll be thinking or saying something to the universe, somebody will send an email exactly answering what you wanted. Your soul groups are tuned in to work faster because they're working at the higher levels, at the higher frequency.
I have a question. This is another selfish question. Can I go? Okay, I just want to make sure you're down with this. So good. This is such a great episode today, guys. This is so great. My partner just said yesterday, Archer's Raw, that you need to keep going with the synchronicities because when I just said this in the video and it happened again, when I opened the Dolores canon book, it matches what is happening in my reality and that scares my ego. It's just scared. What do I do with that?
Ego is having a hard time letting it go of its identity and being part of the whole. And you can actually kind of trick your ego a little bit and be like, now you're going to have an even better experience if you just become part of the wave. Instead of being a small drop trying to go through the stream, if you just let yourself become part of the big wave, now you're going to be part of the whole ocean.
There you go, Krista. So ego, we really, people talk about ego and id and all that, and it always, we have these conversations. It always comes back to ego being the one thing that seems to get in our way all the time, and it's so hard for people. There are so many people. If you take the 22% away, so you're left with what, 78%, where ego is everything. Like, there's so many people driven in today's world by ego, right? And it's all about material things, and they define themselves by what they have materialistically and how much money they make and how other people think how smart they are or how successful they are. This is, you look at that two ways, right? There's the way to look at it is these are souls who are trying to learn and grow as well. I mean, I could say that about Hitler. I mean, that's hard to say. That is hard to say. But right? I mean,
none of that matters in the spirit.
None of it.
None of
it
that.
doesn't.
They don't care.
Right.
You find yourself.
But here's the thing: how do people who are on that? How do the 22%? Okay, how do the 22% best deal with the 78%?
Don't be taken for. That's the verse, because you're radiating at such a high frequency that you see the oneness and you see the picture. But these people who are not integrous and a higher consciousness do not see. So this is an easy ride. So it doesn't mean you act like a fool. You still have to. I mean, Yeshua said in the sermons, they do first before you do everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. And he was the ultimate cool dude, right? So
yeah, Buddha said live in the middle ground, which means you're not high up, you're just right in the middle. You're kind of a symbol, you're just kind of neutral. You're able to value logically. You're not so far in one versus another that you can't be pulled to the center to really evaluate.
All right. And it's amazing how these guys, all these individuals, all were really saying the same thing. These highly evolved, right? This high frequency, these incredible, yeah, exactly. Right. And that's really truly amazing. Man, this is really resonating with me. I mean, this is great stuff, Vaughn. Really is.
Yeah, you're lighting up.
Well, and you know what? It's putting it into terms I think that everyone can understand. Really, truly. And that's the key. That really is the key, because sometimes it can get a little bit like, what, that kind of thing. I have one question that I want to ask before, because I know, Krista, you have some questions as well. Where do the ETs fit into all this? Are they just we're part of that, right? So we're just on the different planets or wherever we reincarnate. We might be somewhere, we might be a Pleiadian in one life, and then there's something else in another life. So is it just we're all going through the same thing?
Yeah. So, like I said, we're all part of creation, and the ETs are just another incarnation in creation. And they're learned, if some of them in different incarnations have, like starseeds, have come into this experience to help change the frequency and help contribute the little part and take their knowledge home with them so they can go back to their experience. That's what they're going to get and learn from. They're going to get this. They're going to understand humans a little bit more, because a lot of them laugh at us because we're really primitive in our consciousness. But the other thing is, some ETs, they also have their own level of frequency, and you can't see them because you're not radiating it at that level of energy that they're at. So if they're at like a higher frequency into a higher dimension, you're not going to see them. But if you radiate higher, you will be able to see them, feel them, communicate with them.
And this is one of the Buddha bodies, right? Is that it's radiating, it's emanating from the inside, that you bring it out. When you say
your frequency, your energy comes from your inside. It's your inner wellness. Your physical body is just a manifestation. It's just a vessel. It's just a vessel.
Yeah.
It doesn't even contain your energy. That's why you have auras. And if you do kind of like I can forget Kryllian photography, it's all over because it can't even contain the energy. some people's energy is even more big that, like, you know, they walk into a room and you don't even see them. You're like, oh, grandma just showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movies are
I'll sit down for a meal.
So, real quick, you guys, before we end the show today, how does the Starseed create an essential lifestyle? As these teenagers have been sending me messages online going, Krista, what's your morning routine? And I think of lighting candles, my Buddha statue, and reading a book and stuff like that. So it's not very interesting. But do you guys have any special practice, or maybe a ritual, or some kind of lifestyle tips?
Well, yeah, meditation is anything that gets you from stopping thinking. The monkey brain, the monkey business you do, about, thinking about this, thinking about that. When you get to a meditative state, whether it's through sitting down, just meditation, it's through playing music, it's through artwork. When you're in doing something that you love, and you're just kind of, all you're doing, like I paint, so I'll just sit there and I'll just like blue, red. I'm not thinking about my day. I'm not thinking about the things I need to do. This monkey brain is stop thinking. That is when you change your brain from beta to gamma. That's when you're in the transcendental meditation phase, is when you stop thinking. And so any kind of meditation practice is going to keep you connected to the higher mind and to the spirit world. And so if you are a musician, play music that reflects your inner wellness. If you're an artist, paint, because that's going to make you feel good. And that's going to clean your energy field and kind of radiate that out. And, like I said, like if you, like with the map of consciousness that Dr. Hawkins did, he had measured over 40 years of different levels of energy. And you can change the fabric of reality of the people around you by just being yourself and radiating at a high frequency, whatever it is. So for instance, Hollywood, like The Lion King and Toy Story, that radiates at, I think, like 400, which is a very high level. So people who are making that work are making an expression of their level of consciousness. Like the Wedding March, Canon in D by Pachelbel. Sometimes you listen to that, you just want to cry, because that is, I think that's like 500 or so level of consciousness. Is really high, because that person they had an awakening. They are infusing the spirit world and bringing it out. Anybody who hears it is changing that and raising their frequency. So it doesn't have to be spirituality that you raise your frequency and that you affect everybody else around you that comes into contact with you, or your expression of yourself, whether you do it in writing books. Charles Dickens, all his books, they radiate very, very high. I think like 400 or 500. Charles Dickens, and that's why you love A Christmas Carol and all those other stories so much, and you feel good. So good after you gotta watch it 50 times.
Oh, yeah, and no matter what version, right? Because it's the story, right? There's the vibrational, the frequency of that is like, oh my God, this is the most. You feel so good at the end of that, no matter which version you watch.
Magical.
Exactly. So we need to get out of, and in Buddhism, it's like you need to get out take spirituality out of the box, because everything is spiritual. Everything is a hologram reflecting your energy. So you can radiate high doing what you love in any area of your life, and by doing and being the best version. If Pachelbel decided to be Beethoven, he would never have created the Wedding March. Okay, and we do weddings now. So anyways, be the best version of you and stop trying to be everyone else, because when you're the best version of you, you contribute a little piece of yourself, and that in creation, people will use that and create more things from the little thing that you have. So, it's been proven over and over again that you can have a high level consciousness in all these different areas. And the golden age of humanity, of unity consciousness, are people who are resonating and being the best expression of themselves and creating things that are the best expression of themselves. And like I'm in IT, for instance, so whatever I do, I try to infuse a little bit of my metaphysics and my energy into my creation and have integrity with the things that I do. Because in the future, the politicians are the business people. And the business people who are in charge are the ones who have the best technology. And so we need integrous business people. And the children that are playing the video games, some of my clients are programmers, and they just basically infuse their metaphysics into the video games that they create. That's why a lot of video games calibrate high and are just exercises in metaphysics to kind of train the children to be of higher caliber people, because whether it's them or their descendants, in business, that's where the politics will be. So we need high frequency, good, integrous people in business.
So how does one contact you for QHHT? Real quick, what are your services, your offerings for humanity?
Well, so like I said, I spent the last 20 years studying metaphysic research from the efforts of monks going into academia for mindfulness, consciousness, meditation research. And a lot of that research in a lot of fringe topics like the Vesica Pisces, sacred geometry, all these different things, parallel realities, that is on my blogs that I have put on macabrechakras.com. So you can go in there and read the science behind a lot of these metaphysical topics that you see in a lot of religions and ancient traditions that crop up all over the place. Everybody has the same stuff because it's the same information. So that's in there as well. And then if you are in the Seattle area, you can reach out to me for a QHHT session. If it's meant to be, then we will schedule that. But really, for the most part, every one of my sessions, I always get the same message from the Oversoul, because and so I take those messages and I put it in these couple of sentences. And this is what the Oversoul wants everybody to know at this time. You've always been enough. You've always been enough. And use the gifts and resources all around you to create the life that you want to experience. A life full of joy and love. And the spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity. So you can do it. That's the message.
Wow. That's just incredible, Vaughn. We'd love to have you back on, man. We just got to, if you're good with that. This is great. This was good stuff.
We also want to hear from the Starseeds and Indigos who are here today. Comment below what you're thinking about QHHT, about your practice, about the synchronicities you've been experiencing. Have you also experienced the ultimate truth and been in this higher state? Have you looked into brainwaves? Have you looked into pyramid technologies? So give us a big like and etheric round of applause for Vaughn. We're so happy to have brought her on. Thank you so much for being on the episode today. I hope you guys may subscribe and check her out. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Vaughn.
Bye.